The words mean, you have bought yourself a guitar, but it plays like poop.
Well, thank you, Estebon-bon. We
You are
appreciate that coming. Hi, I'm Gary Wineroth. Welcome to Makin Music. We're from Guitar Showcase here today to talk about the guitar that possibly you or someone you know got for Christmas or for birthday, or maybe found it under the bed or wherever. And our message to you is, we don't care where you bought it. We don't care what brand it is. In fact, that was the famous Mark Blasquez from Fender Musical Instruments playing the Estebon-bon guitar, which is something that we found in our swap shop that is truly a questionable instrument.
Typical of an instrument you might find at a less reputable store than your own, sir.
Possibly so. Now that particular guitar, can we get the action? Can you kind of show it to the camera over there so he can kind of look at the action on that guitar?
Yeah, you want to see that you could probably
okay, push down on those strings, Mark, and let's
fly a small plane underneath these strings.
Yeah, that's what you don't want.
And double as a crossbow if you need to.
Now, in all fairness, that guitar was made probably back in the 50s or 60s, before we had computers that care. Okay. And so it was an extremely poor example. Once again, that's a wall hanger. That's not an instrument, and we would not want anybody to try and play it. So let me welcome our guests. First of all, Estebon-bon is Mark Blasquez, Fender Musical Instruments.
How are you?
And all-around nice guy. I forgot that part.
I keep telling you that.
Okay. And then next we have Terry Allen from Guitar Showcase. He's electric guitar department manager, as well as one of our chief setup guys, luthier, and also all-around nice guy. And then I have the fabulous Jack Van Breen with his musician looking for groupie shirt on.
Really, honey, it's
right
not
here,
what it seems.
This is good. I love that patch. And it's true. He is. He's like, see that musician looking for groupies. Yeah, and he is with Guitar Showcase also. Even though Jack is in our IT department, he helps as a part-time sales manager and on the floor. And he's a gigging musician, as are all of you,
Absolutely.
which is very good. All three of you know what you're doing that way. So once again, our message, we don't care where you bought it. Doesn't make any difference. Could have come from Walmart, Kmart, Bed Bath & Beyond. It doesn't matter. Those guitars, with a little care and feeding, we can make right for you. We can fix them so that they can play. Now, one of the things, Terry, you have to set up guitars at Guitar Showcase. Not only do you sell them, you help me with the ordering. You tell me what's cool, because I'm an old guy and I don't know these things. And of course, Mark does that too. But tell us about what you have to do to make a guitar playable. Now, that was an extremely poor example. Okay,
That's an extremely poor example.
All right, so
hey, wait a minute.
Let's go with a reasonably, entry-level guitar, this Jackson here, who happens to be made by Fender Musical Instrument. They own Jackson, which is a famous brand name. I see we have a broken string here. Now
we certainly do.
Now this has got a Floyd Rose tremolo. Tell me about this. This looks like a nightmare to change that string. In fact, I generally don't do that. Tell us what we have to do to make that happen.
First, we call Jeremy.
Yeah.
The first thing you do is you call Jeremy. He works at our store. He's an expert at setting these up. But there's setting them up, and then there's maintaining them. What we're talking about here today is kind of what you have to do to maintain it. Classic example when you break a string. If you change strings on these, you change them one at a time. Otherwise, you have to mess with this for a long time, and you don't want to do that. So basically, the guitar comes with the tools that you need, your little wrenches. It's got a locking screw here at the bridge and one at the nut. So you just have to grab the right wrench, which is always the second one.
Now tell us why, while you're doing this, why do they lock them? Why do we go to all this trouble?
The reason for this, when we tune it up and plug it in, it'll become a little more obvious, is that what the Floyd does is it locks the string in place on both ends. So the first thing you have to do is cut the little brass end off.
Well, they don't use that.
Which normally on most guitars is what holds the string in place at the bridge.
Some call that neutering.
Yes.
Okay, this goes along with our Estebon-bon theme.
Yes. And then the string actually just goes into a little slot.
Glad you can see that.
Yeah.
Barely. That kind of goes in. And then there's a little block in there, and you tighten it down.
That clamps it?
That clamps it. When it stops, you give it about maybe just a little bit of pressure. You don't need to over-tighten them.
All right, well, now what happens if I do over-tighten it? Will it break the string?
You'll be coming in the Guitar Showcase. We actually do sell the inserts and the screws.
Because I'll strip
Because
that?
they will strip out. If you tighten them right, they'll last a very long time.
Okay.
I'm sure Eddie Van Halen is very good at changing these parts.
Well, his roadies are anyway.
Yeah, his roadies are.
Yeah, and if we haven't gotten too far ahead of ourselves yet, I wanted to just point out that that the tremolo system that Terry's setting up now is called a Floyd Rose system because that's the name of the guy who came up with it. And it was invented, I don't know, 25 years ago or so as an attempt to keep guitars with tremolos in tune, which has always been a challenge. But what he's going through right now would be typical of how you would restring a guitar like this, but not how you would restring most. Yeah, you wouldn't do that or say...
This one is a little bit simpler.
Yeah.
And this is actually the tremolo system for which Floyd invented that system to fix.
Yep.
Because these do have a tendency when you do severe wobbling of it,
Dive bomb?
dive bombs, the guitar will go slightly out of tune.
Or totally out of tune.
Or totally out of tune, depending on how well it was set up initially.
Absolutely.
But it was never meant to be played that way.
It was not. No, it was meant
in
to
all
be played.
fairness, right. It's,
Sure. There was a little of that. But, you know, musicians will always take things as far as they can go and then a little farther. And the double locking system that Terry's working with now, it's truly amazing. I have one on one of my Fender Stratocasters, and I frequently will get to a gig and get halfway through the first or second song and realize I never bothered to tune. And I just don't have to. It's an amazingly stable system and very common on Jackson guitars.
So they licensed this from Floyd Rose, Fender did?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can find this system on other guitars, I'm sure.
Similar, yeah. I'm
Similar.
not actually sure on exactly what is... I mean, Floyd was the guy who came up with the first double locking system.
Right.
You can make modifications to it, as I know other companies have, and get around.
I think Kaler's another
Licensing
one
it.
that did something
Yes.
similar. They had a locking trim of some sort.
They
It
had
looked totally
locking-
different.
Yeah.
It's,
You're going to get into personal preference of what was good and what was bad, but another thing. So the reason what Terry was pointing out about tuning one string at a time, on a tremolo guitar like most Stratocasters, the bridge is normally it's sort of floating. Maybe I
Can we get a shot of this guitar here?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
so
right
floating.
bridge.
Up in here. And
Yeah,
you
right
can see
in this
right
area.
in this area how the bridge can go back and forth. It actually is not resting on a body. That's called
Right.
floating, and allows you to do some neat stuff. But if you break a string, you put the guitar down and pick up another one because you're
Right.
totally out of tune.
Yeah, because what happens is the bridge is actually sitting with a balance of tension between the strings and the springs that are in the back on the tremolo. So if you change the tension one way or the other, the whole guitar goes out of tune. So
They're
that's
back
why
there.
we recommend
Yeah.
to change one string at a time.
Okay, now.
After you kind of get a general tuning on it, you tighten these down, you finish the tuning with these little violin-style tuners. This
Little
gets you
fine tuners in
close.
there.
This is your fine tune. And sometimes you have to go back and forth a little bit because when you tighten one string, the other 5 go flat. So you just kind of have to keep working it back and forth, and after a few minutes, you have a in tune.
Now, there are all sorts of little tricks and secrets and things like that. I mean, Terry is very skilled at this, and that's one of the things we wanted to point out down here. We want to give people an overview of how this is done, but Terry can probably do this in a fraction of the time that you'd be doing it at home. And some of the services that they offer at Guitar Showcase are these amazing setups and stuff like that.
I think we're using a tube amp, so you got to wait a couple of minutes for the. wants everything stretched in. And you notice the E string, the one I just put on, drifted a little bit. So I just adjust it. And we're back in tune.
So you made it happen.
That quickly.
That's for you.
The first time you do it, it won't go that smoothly.
I'd still be working on that darn thing.
That's why you come and see us, because we can get it all set up for you and give you a little instruction on how we make it look so easy.
Okay, now there's a lot of different types of music. Now, obviously metal, the dive bomb, the death metal kind of a thing is kind of the type of music. And what would you use that Floyd Rose for other types of music? I mean, what?
No, this has really kind of become the standard bar for the guy who really likes to, hit hard on the whammy these days.
Yeah, and I don't think it matters so much the style of music that you use, but if you're using a whammy bar a lot, it might be worth it. Now, there are certain people that will tell you as soon as you put, say for instance on a Stratocaster, if you were to put one of these bridges on there, it's such a significant modification to the fundamental structure of a Strat that it does change the sound of the guitar. There's no question it'll sound different, but not necessarily bad.
It's just different.
Just different.
Just different, yeah.
Well, now either one of you can answer, or any one of the three of you, is this something you would recommend for a beginner? The Floyd Rose?
No, not really.
Okay.
At the beginning days when you first started, you really want to learn how to use the two most important things of playing the guitar, these two hands, and get your coordination of your timing, picking, playing your basic chords.
So we don't need the whammy.
So you really don't need this, because when you first start now, you might be doing, songs like that, to develop your coordination, which is where you want to spend your time. Once your kid's got that and he's playing his basic songs, at some point in time he's probably going to start listening to, Joe and Steve Vai and people like that who are really the experts when it comes to using this Floyd.
Right.
But some of the other stuff that's important to point out in regards to tremolos is string gauge and stuff like that. People will often walk into a music store and say, I need a new set of strings, and you sort of need to know what gauge of strings was on your guitar to begin with, because, for instance, if this happened to be set up with what would normally be called extra light 9-gauge strings out here, and if you decided, if you just walked in, you didn't know, and they gave you a set of 10s, there's going to be so much extra tension that the whole system will set up forward, and it won't be proper. So there again, it's important to have a place, no matter where you bought your guitar. It's important to know you have people that you can go to that have the answers to this stuff, that know that you could bring your guitar in and say, I don't have any idea what's on here, and all three of these guys would know by looking at it and can get you the right stuff.
And we do that all the time for people, and that's something that we're happy to do. I know we've done it with Fender, we've done it with some other companies too, but the Second Harvest Food Bank I know is dear to your heart.
Yeah.
You're the one that's the coordinator for those events. Here in Santa Clara Valley, there's always a need for the homeless and the needy people to have enough to eat, and it's hard for us to understand that. Those of us that, especially a little extra pounds here, we tend to take that for granted, and yet there's people in Silicon Valley here, all over the Bay Area, that miss meals on a regular basis. They don't have enough to eat, period, ever. I mean, it's just the bottom line. I'm not just talking about homeless people. Right. I'm talking about people just trying to get by. Yep. So the Second Harvest Food Bank is a charity that's near and dear to our hearts, and I know, Jack, to you especially. We have coordinated with them and with Fender Musical Instruments, and we appreciate that, Mark.
Sure.
To have another drive where we say bring in 2 cans of food, and we'll put on a new set of strings. A set of strings is all 6, and they're worth $5 or $6 or $7. It's not a lot of money, but at the same time, we're going to fix a lot of these little problems that can occur, and it not only helps the food bank, it helps get little Junior's guitar going, or Big Junior, because it's the kind of thing that we start people out in their 70s sometimes in our music school.
Sure.
So, I think that's something that's really, really important to figure out how to get the guitar that they got to play. Now, I've got another example here that is not made by Fender.
Careful, the frets on that thing will give you tetanus.
I know. This
like
looks
petting a piranha.
like a Fender guitar. Okay, it looks like a Fender Stratocaster because the body. Can you turn it around to one of the cameras? Can see it? Okay, here we have the real Fender Stratocaster. Okay, that I've got my hand on right here, and here we have the Fender-like object.
Pale imitation.
Yeah.
Fender-like object.
Now,
FLO.
Now, one of the problems is, and you know, we don't prefer this type of guitar, but chances are the mass marketers do because they're very reasonable, and I'm sure there are some people that do. But you know what? If this is the only type of guitar you can afford, I'd rather you bought that kind of guitar than have no guitar.
Than not get a guitar.
You know,
sure.
And so what we want to do is we want to fix some of the things that are wrong with these guitars for people. And if it's a simple fix, if it's something that we can do in 10, 15 minutes during one of our restring clinics, and I think we have one coming up in a couple of weeks,
Yep.
I would like to be able to do that for them. Now, Terry, I almost cut myself on the frets on this. We can't have little hands. If we can zoom in, I'm not sure which camera, but if we could get in on the edge of the frets.
I think you'll be able to see it on the camera.
Right here, whichever one can
Right on
see
the
that.
edge of the frets. The metal is actually sticking out from the wood.
That shows
And-
it. They can move your finger. See it right there?
Yeah, you can
There's
see a little bit of
this
it.
part of the fret is actually sticking out from the wood.
Yes.
And if you run your finger down here, you actually feel.
If you have a guitar like this, you're probably not going to play it much. But if you bring it down in just a few minutes, what we can do is just take a typical flat file and you just kind of very lightly rub it. You want to rub it on the frets, not on the wood. This is why you want to bring it in, because you always want to have somebody do it unless you're willing to, you know, scrape your guitar up and make it worse.
Yeah, this is a don't try this at home.
This
thing.
is don't try this.
Yeah.
This is
Unless you-
absolutely.
He makes it look easy,
Yeah.
but just you don't want to do that.
Well,
It's-
there is an alternative. If you want to buy a second guitar after you've ruined this one, you can try it at home, but we recommend getting some instruction first.
Yeah, but to sort of try to put that in a nutshell, I think, you know, what Gary's saying and this very gracious offer from the guys at Showcase is the likelihood is that you or somebody you know ended up with a guitar over the holidays or however you got it. But it might, you just pick it up and say, I don't get this thing. It doesn't seem like it feels right. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't play well. There's a string broken on it. I tried to replace the string. It broke too. Bring it down. Bring it down. These guys will take care of it. I'll be there too.
Absolutely.
And we will get you set up. And you know, it's not just about fixing the guitar. We'll actually show you along the way. What are we doing? How can you fix this up when you get home? It's important to know people who can help you learn all this stuff about the guitar. Very important.
Okay, now there's two places on the guitar, the nut up at the top, and if we can zero in on the show them that place on the nut. The strings tend to break there if there's a rough edge or a binding there. Is that correct, Terry?
That's correct.
Okay,
And then also,
and then
big popping sounds and all kind of.
it'll do strange things. And then on the bottom, down on the bridge, way down at the base, down where the tremolo is, those strings actually come up through a little hole and then go over. They come from the back through that little hole, and then they go over those pull pieces right there, those bridge pieces, and that's where they'll tend to break too. Mm-hmm. Now, on a less expensive instrument, less care is put into the manufacture of those specific pieces.
Sure.
Now, I'll tell you one of the most amazing things to me. Can I see that Stratocaster, Jack? When I was down at the Fender factory, if we can zoom in on these pull pieces here,
Bridge pieces.
I think it'll give us where the string comes over here, each one of these separate bridge pieces are hand sanded on a sander. They take each one, they do them in little blocks of 6 for the guitar, and they've got them on a belt sander, and they're actually finishing the rough spots across here by hand. Okay, now obviously a guitar that retails for somewhere around $1,000, you can do that on. You can't do that on a guitar that retails for around $100.
$100, sure.
It's just not possible. And I'm not sure that we can fix that either. But we can show people how to take. How would you do that? What would you do? Would you use a file, or would you use?
Basically, what we use is a set of specially made files for working on the guitar. They are sized for the gauge of the string. This one is an 042, so that's for a string size of 42, which would typically be like your low string on a light gauge string set.
Now that represents 42 thousandths a round.
Which is the same gauge as the low E string on this guitar. What we can do is take the little file and actually smooth the edge here, and all of a sudden it becomes a workable situation.
You stop breaking strings so much and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, and you have to do that for each individual.
You have to do that for each individual
on
string.
both sides. Yep. So
both sides, and the string
times.
gauges are made for every size string that are out there and come in a set.
Okay, and you have that stuff.
Of course we do.
Those are okay. So that's important. So what have you got?
Well, another reason that beginners tend to break strings is they'll get the guitar and they'll start playing it and they'll go, and they'll just go, and eventually, and I'm not going to do it because I'm a coward, this string will break.
It's dangerous.
And then they'll go, it broke, and they'll put another one, and they'll tune it too high. So using a guitar tuner, so you get to the right pitch, will save you some string damage as well.
Absolutely.
And one of the other things that I wanted to comment about, the frustration with not only the playability, but if the guitar doesn't sound right, even though you're playing it right, it makes it difficult. So getting your guitar set to play and sound right is very important.
So you don't want to take this on tonight's gig? You have an issue with this?
How much you paying me?
I think he's more of a pink paisley man myself.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is funny. This is a blast from the past thing that Fender did win back 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And reissue of something that they did back in the 70s, I believe?
Late 60s.
Late 60s, yeah.
60s? Okay. Yeah. Which is kind of cool. Show the back, too. I mean, it's got the art on it. And that was actually done in Fender, Japan, right?
Yep.
That what it says here? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a cool, I think originals were, too, weren't they?
Sure, if it was late enough 60s, it would have been Japanese
so
to begin with.
it's kind of cool. So that's kind of a neat thing. All right, so what else? Now, Estebon-bon, you were playing a no-name. You know, we were gracious enough to tape over the name on that, and that's some old thing that no one makes anymore anyway. But what can you do? Unfortunately, I'll say what you can do for that guitar. It's a great wall hanger. It does not have an adjustable truss rod.
Sure.
The neck, and boy, I don't know if we can sight down that neck to get the ski jump look.
Let's try this.
Yeah, we do.
Let's try and
Is
sight
we set it down
this way. Yeah. If we can get on one of these cameras, because there's a ski jump right in here.
Yeah.
I don't know
what we can do is if you can kind of get in close right here.
Maybe get it that way.
Yeah, I'll show. I can show you real quick, and we zoom in. And
we'll see
right
if
here on
one
the
of them
neck.
can. Yeah.
Okay. And you can see the action there. If I hold the string at the first fret and the last fret, and I turn it back to close, please, you'll see this gap and how much the string moves. What you really want right about there is right. You see it just moves a little bit, but on this one, it moves a lot.
It's about a quarter
That's
inch.
because the neck is concave. It's this way. And of course, this doesn't have a truss rod, so you cannot adjust it.
The truss rod is the metal rod that runs down the length of the guitar's neck, that will allow you to counteract the tension of the strings pulling the neck in one direction.
Yeah, which on, like this guitar here, we'll show you in a second, is adjustable.
Let me have that one and show them on the nice guitar.
Too straight.
This was the opposite case. Jack says this one is too straight, and he is correct. Because if I look at the neck, there's nothing there. It's not moving at all.
So that's likely to buzz.
You know, so that's likely to give you the...
Hear the fret buzz. And see, and this is the kind of education that you guys can impart to people that come in and have us restring their guitars. This is stuff that if you just show people, they'll be able to make a lot of these judgments for themselves.
But this guitar does have an adjustable truss rod, and therefore can be fixed, and that's an easy fix, I might add. That's something that we can do instantly on the spot for you. And Terry, we don't have time. We're almost out of time.
We could
do
show
go there, but
this particular guitar. Same thing. I don't know if we can get that shot of the fretboard.
you got to turn the guitar towards the camera. There we go.
Yeah, do it this way.
Yeah, there you go.
So this guitar, And I don't know if my mic will pick it up, but you hear a little bit of click there. And I happen to know that this guitar is set up perfectly because it's my personal guitar that I set up perfectly.
Now, wait a minute. Are you saying that your personal guitar is a Fender Stratocaster?
My personal, hand-picked,
I love
is a
me
Fender
some Jack
Stratocaster.
Van Breen.
Who would have thought it?
That's crazy.
Good enough for Eric.
Well, we're almost out of time, guys. What else can you add? Now, in about 2 weeks, on a Saturday, we're going to be doing, and throughout the year, we're going to do this again.
Yeah, if I have my way, we'll be trying to do it every couple of months or so.
Sure.
So
people are encouraged to give us a call, find out when we're going to be doing it, or drop us email.
Or go to the website. We'll post it on the website.
Post it on the website. And the thing is, for the cost of 2 cans of food, you'll not only get highly, highly qualified and trained people to set up and maintain your guitar, but also give you the knowledge that you'll be able to take with you and be able to learn this on your own. And
we're happy to show them. We generally have enough time. We do it in the vintage room where it's off the main sales floor, and it's not an issue.
And it's not unlikely to be handed a $20,000 guitar to while away the time. We've got several very high-end Fenders.
That's true. In fact, that's a lot of fun to have a kid come in with his first guitar, and while we're restringing it, we hand him a Stevie Ray Vaughan or a Blackie Clapton. But we're about out of time.
Okay.
So thank you, Mark, for coming. Are you going to play a little guitar for us as we go? And if not, I don't even know if that's playable, but thank you, Mark, for coming.
It's a guitar
from Fender. Terry, thank you for coming. And Jack, thank you for coming.
Buy our cookies.
Can't do this with a Floyd.